Hey everyone, welcome to Spirit XL's YouTube channel. If you're new here, this channel's about this amazing boat, Spirit. The channel was previously about our Trimaran called Spirit, and now the channel's with the new boat, Spirit, which is a lot larger. She's 54-foot Chris White hammerhead. Our old boat was a Bruno Ferrenbach, a Murph and Owen Formula 40 Trimaran, which weighed 3 tons, was 40 feet by 33 feet. This boat's 8 tons, and she's 54 feet by 35 feet. And she's awesome. She's awesome. She's an amazing boat. We picked her up about a year ago in Costa Rica, and she was in really poor condition and not very well maintained or looked after. So we sailed her after doing a lot of work touring Costa Rica to give us the opportunity to sail her back to Australia, where we are now, where we could carry out further and more extensive works. We did a good 5 months in Costa Rica and Panama, just getting the boat ready to cross the Pacific. And now here we are, we find ourselves here in Australia with the boat in the shed at Boatworks here on the Gold Coast. And we're just cracking on with the jobs. There's a lot to do. And we're gonna have a busy few months. But we love giving old boats a new life. And this is gonna be a big refit and quite an extensive amount of work. It can be a big project, you know, especially when you have an older boat that hasn't had a lot of really deep sort of maintenance done to it over the last few years. And our main goal is just to get the boat to a really a good seaworthy state, which she always was structurally. But you can see it's all this sort of stuff, you know, the moisture that's coming out of the tip of the centerboard, cutting that back. You see our little garden here is now living on the centerboard. But yeah, and just fixing up, this is an area where the centerboard comes down that rests against the front of the centerboard trunk. So we'll grind back in there, we'll make a really nice solid plate so that when the centerboard rotates down, this is the actual, like the stopper, like a door stop. Someone asked in the last video if I could talk a bit more about the centerboard, so I will just explain. This is where the pin goes, and this is the forward edge of the centerboard, and that's the trailing edge. So when the board is up inside the boat, it folds down like that and folds up like that. And the way that it does that is just here, there was a small stainless steel ring, and then here there was another stainless steel ring. Now this ring goes back along, well, both of these rings have lines attached to them. This ring here, there is also a block pretty much in the centerboard trunk. There's a block about here at the top on the wall of the centerboard trunk. So this line here goes around the front of the centerboard, and then it goes all the way back, and then there's another little block at the back. This one here, the line comes forward through a block, and then it goes all the way back. So both lines go all the way back along the top of the trunk, and then they go through another block at the back of the trunk, and they go up to a winch. And so pulling on those lines is what pulls the board up and down. So if we want the board to go down, we'll pull on this line here, and this pulling on this line rotates the board down. We pull on this line, because this line runs through a block here and up, it pulls the board back up. And there's quite a lot of leverage because you're carrying the weight of the board over pretty much like a 50 centimetre or half a metre section. The boat draws quite a bit when the board's fully down. Anyway, so yeah, we'll be fixing all of this. We'll be removing the penetrations. And we'll be putting some uni bands up and down the board here. We'll have to grind back into it a little bit because you don't want to increase the board size. So it fits pretty well inside the trunk. So we'll have to grind back into the laminates a little bit, which needs to be done anyway. We need to check out what's going in here or going on in here, remove the rest of that stainless and just check the core. And then yeah, we'll probably run some unis and we'll try and do like a friction ring or something, some sort of attachment that we don't have to worry about it corroding and we don't have to worry about it penetrating the laminates, which allows water to get into the core, which on a boat is always the biggest problem. And the big problem is keeping water out of the core, and that's whether you're below the waterline or above the waterline. You can see this little wear mark here is we must have, well, not us, I would say it's it looks a bit old. But that looks like a net or a long line or something's been picked up in the water. It's just cut into the front edge of the board there. But yeah, so the board overall is, so about 3 meters long, and this section here at the bottom is about a bit over 2 meters, 2.5 meters. Here's the rudder. So the rudder works by, there's a couple of pins that go in on either side, and the rudder rotates up and down. And the reason why it has this big section here, like the reason why the whole thing isn't a blade, is because it's designed so that as the rudder kicks up, you've still got steerage. So that's what that big section is there. It allows the rudder to still turn whilst it's being kicked up and reducing the draft of the boat. This is going to be a bit of a long one, so if you're not interested in boats and refits and what's going on, you probably want to watch another YouTube channel. I'm going to dribble on here for a bit because there's quite a fair bit that we've got going on. But yeah, one idea that we have is to remove that big tack point up there and anchor roller and everything sort of combined. I'd really like to put a composite chain plate that runs up both sides of the stem and a fixed prodder off the front and the anchor to drop through it. Something like they do on the TPs, or I think the new Club Swan, even the Halberg Rassie, I think the new 69, is it, or 68? They have a really nice prodder where the anchor drops through the middle. That sort of thing is what we'd like to do, but we'll see how we go with our time. Yeah, bow thruster, obviously slowly cleaning that up. It's a pretty easy job, and the whole underwater section and everything will be done at the end of the refit. This is the last thing we do. But we are in the midst of removing all the through holes. It's our first week in the shed this week, so we've been in here for 7 days. And I've been working on, along with Danny, who's also, we've got 2 people helping us, Chloe and I, so there's the 4 of us working on the boat. There's myself, Wazza, and Dan. And Dan's been grinding back some of these areas of the hull, and then I've put some bog on. And it's a coving and also with a bit of glue compound West Systems that we're using for these areas. I'm just beefing up the bottom of the boat here and yeah, just making it fair. And then what we'll do is this beveled edge here we will make straight, and we'll put a couple of layers of biax over this area. We're really going to make this a tough area and sacrificial, you know. There's a lot of bog and there'll be a lot of glass over this bottom section, so that yeah, when we find a nice beach somewhere, we can throw her up on the beach and give her a clean. Chloe and I, we also removed all the barnacles and oysters and everything that were growing in the box here, or the case. Been doing a little bit of work on the P-bracket as well. We will replace both bearings in the shaft, the one in the hull and the one in the P-bracket. We're also shaping this. We'll put a lot bigger cove just to give a little bit more structure for the join from the P-bracket to the hull. And we'll probably close the gap between the prop and the P-bracket just to give a better sort of water flow off the P-bracket and onto the prop. Just a few little things. It'll also minimise vibration. It'll give the shaft less leverage for vibration. Removed both the dyno plates from here as well. They weren't even connected to anything. And then we've also been sharpening up these edges. Where the rudder is, this was very rounded, and so we used to get a lot of water flowing up because it just wasn't, the tolerances were huge. So between the rudder box and the hull, there was a big gap and water used to race in. We had the same problem with Little Spirit, our last boat, and we did the same thing, and it just streamlined the hull and the rudder a lot more, just to create a bit better flow. Yeah, Waz's taken off the stainless strips. We've cleaned up, or we are presently cleaning up the transom area. I'll go up the top and talk more about that. But yeah, we've removed those stainless strips off the back. We've removed quite a lot off the boat. A lot of fittings, a lot of stainless, a lot of penetrations that were into the core. And we're really big believers, if anyone's been following us for a while, you'll know that we're just really big believers in making the boat as simple as possible. Less penetrations, less winches, less jammers. Just make the boat super simple. You know, why have 7 winches if you can get by with 4? It just seems, you know, to me it's crazy. It's more to maintain, more weight. Anyway, we've sealed up the holes where the pad eyes were. This is where the preventer attaches. The boat's got, instead of having a track for a main sheet, we have like this triangled main system. So you have the main sheet that goes off the central position there. And then you have on either side of the boom, you have a starboard and a port preventer. They just triangulate the main. So you ease the center one and then you pull outboard. So you're on a starboard tack, the wind's coming from the starboard side, the boom will come out here on the port side, and you'll sheet in on that preventer, and that triangulation of the 2 sheets will pull the boom down and tighten up the leach of the sail. So that's how it works. But the problem is, there's a huge amount of load. You know, the preventer's really working as another main sheet. And so you've got a lot of load, especially with that triangulation. So we're going to put in a little composite chain plate out here. On the back of the beam, we'll probably run unis up both sides and onto the laminate. So we'll have a bit of work to do there. It's not much. Creating all these carbon chain plates is pretty easy. Everything with composite work is relatively easy, you know, when you understand what you've got to do. You know, when you get to the higher end, you know, if you're doing America's Cup stuff, yeah, okay, you go to another level. But if, you know, if you're just doing bits on a boat like this, it's fairly easy. As long as you've got the laminates down right and, you know, you have really good adhesion and you know, mixing everything properly, it really isn't that hard to do. So those sort of things won't take us too long. The worst thing about fiberglass work is grinding and, you know, being itchy. But yeah, we're blocking up these holes that have been all around the boat. These have obviously these been GPSs, or, you know, this is why I say keep it simple, keep it simple, keep it simple, because, you know, the more electronics you add to the boat, the more holes you've got to drill, the more antennas you've got to mount, and, you know, every one of those penetrations can become a problem if not done properly. And unfortunately, this is a balsa core, and it was really good. I was quite surprised. Most of these holes were, yeah, they're all good. Yeah, I oversized drilled them just so I could check the core. What you do is you use a hole saw and you just go through the top laminate, and then you can clear out all the core and you can just check to make sure that everything's fine, and everything's fine in there. So we just filled it with glue, and then I put a bit of a foam core in there, and then we put some biax over the top of it to seal it all, to hold it together. And we've got a few more of those to do down the back here. You can see these holes. You can see where I've cleared out the balsa core. That's balsa core there. And There's another one there. This is a non-structural part of the boat down the back here. And yeah, anyway, the core's pretty good in there. I dug quite a bit out just so that I could make sure, and it was all fine. And the same, there's another little hole over here on the starboard side. And then, yeah, another one here that we filled. So there's sort of the jobs that we're doing. Dan's been working on the rudder area here. So we've removed everything and we're just going to fair it and grind it back and give it a really nice coat of paint and just really tidy up this area. It was pretty ordinary. Replace the steering cables and we'll fill in these 2 voids. They'll be totally watertight. There's no penetrations into that area, so there is absolutely no need to be able to get in there. So we will seal it all up. We're going to replace both of the posts as well. I've found a guy that supplies carbon posts for about 300 bucks each. So we'll replace both of those so they look a little bit nicer. Close started sanding the decks, which is a really slow and tedious job. There's a lot of paint on the boat. I swear none of the paint for 30 years has been removed properly. So yeah, we're sanding through a lot of paint. You can see the same thing here, blocking up those holes where the pad eyes were. And you can see we've just put peel play over it so that when we want to when we want to fair and paint it, we just rip it off, fair it, and then paint it. Now you can see the big job, and the main reason we're up here and we're in a shed is for the cabin top. So Wazza has been working really hard over the last week at doing the cabin top, and you can see it's taking shape already and it looks fantastic. It really does. The first thing he had to do was widen it 200 mils, so you can see he created little frames along the outside and then put little stringers along there to support the foam. And then, yeah, you cut it in strips as it goes around the front, and then the front piece we'll torture in and we'll put it in there. But yeah, so next step is glue this side, get the front done, and then we'll do the strips across the top. They're going to be unis. Yeah, to give it some transverse strength. This will be done with unis across, and then it'll all be glassed together and bound into a structure. Really nice curve on the outside, the same as the old roof. So I think it looks really good. And I think it's going to look even better than the smaller roof. To be honest, I think the roof used to look a little bit narrow. And you got to remember there's 3 of these boats, and Spirit, the other 2, the saloon roof goes to the outside of the main hull. So we were the only design that had such a narrow roof and narrow interior. So it's really going to open up the interior. It's going to give us a lot more volume, and we're going to raise it by about 1 inch. We're going to raise it just the thickness of the old roof because we're building it over the top. That will raise it a touch. But I think it's going to look fantastic. And we're really going to minimise a lot of the stuff in the deck. What we will do here where the join is we'll put a rope eye friction ring. And then we're going to put a line distributor out here. So all the lines will run off the mast through a distributor and then along the side deck, and there'll be a bank of clutches back there. Because Chloe and I find when we walk, we don't really use the side decks. We always walk on the net. I feel a lot more secure and safer. So yeah, we'll put a bank of clutches here just before the winches, and then all the lines will run down the side deck. Nothing's going to run over the roof anymore. We'll have some more solar on the roof, on the saloon roof. We'll increase some solar up there. We'll also do a hard top here over the cockpit, and that will have more solar on it as well eventually. We may not do the solar right now, but the reason why we're not putting anything on these roofs and why we're doing a hard cockpit roof is so that we can increase the solar and so that we can give better protection here in the cockpit as well. But yeah, it's coming along. Pretty happy with the progress after 1 week. It's been, yeah, it's been awesome. A lot's been done. Blocked up these holes that were in the seats as well. And yeah, I've got a plan. I really want to move the helm it really divides the cockpit. It's quite horrible, to be honest. Yeah, I'd love the wheel to go, and I'd love it to be somewhere else. It's like right in the centre of the cockpit. So if you've got a few people, you sort of end up walking, you know what I mean, you walk around the wheel. I've been thinking of doing the iMocha, the Open 60 iMochas, and also, you know, Bob Oram, an Australian designer, I've seen them on his boat as well. I've seen them now on the iMochas and also on the Mahi boats. Fishing boats in French Polynesia is a tiller, but it's a vertical tiller. So the pivot would be down there and the tiller would pivot from side to side. So you'd sort of hang on to the tiller and steer like this. And then I'd like to put all the electronics here so that no matter where you are in the cockpit, you've got a view of the electronics. And to be honest, then it would give, you know, create shorter wire runs as well to the electrics which are under here, instead of having to run from here under the floor and back up, or from here under the floor and back over. It would just allow everything to be in one place. So that's something that we're thinking of doing. If there's any engineers that watch this, yeah, give us a shout. We'd really like to try and work out the leverage and everything for the tiller, and I have absolutely no idea how to do it, but I think it should work. Yeah, we'll do a lot of work to this bulkhead. Obviously we're going to have to increase the size of it a little bit, but I'll take you inside, show you what's been going on in here. Yeah, we got this is a centerboard case under the floor here, and Woz has just brought a little cover for it. So yeah, there's a case under there. That's how you get access to the board. And yeah, the floor, this floor's plywood, the interior floor's ply, and it's all good. It's fantastic. All the floor's fine, but not here. This floor's rotten, and I don't know if you can see, but yeah, it's all soft. And I'd say at one stage there was a leaking tap, and it's gotten in here and it's rotten the whole floor. So we'll have to replace this section here of this floor. We'll also chop down this cupboard, so as you come in the boat there won't be a cupboard here, it'll be a bench, and we'll have a water container there. We just find this cupboard's it's huge. We don't really use it, and everything that's stored in there could just be in a plastic box outside. It's mainly, I just put mainly cleaning stuff, WD-40 and that in there. So yeah, we'd like to cut that off, and then that'll give Chloe even more space. We'll probably increase it up the back here because the stove only comes to about here, so give her a little bit more bench space. And yeah, replace this floor. And then we're also thinking about doing something with the nav station. I know a lot of people that watch our videos love the nav station, and we do too, but one thing that we find is it divides the interior. I sit here a lot and work on the computer, and Chloe will sit at the table and do stuff, and we can't see each other, and it just divides the space a bit. So we're thinking about doing some seating, some different seating there, not changing it much, but and just having a much smaller table that the computer can sit on, that you can type. And I think we'll just open this space up a lot more, also with the wider sides and higher and bigger windows. We're going to put in much larger windows. It's going to make, this interior is going to be totally different. We're also going to open the door up a little bit. Not a lot, we're just going to bring it up probably to a couple of inches, just because it is very narrow. And actually, probably the video doesn't show it, but it's a very narrow door. So the floor well will stay the same width. It'll just widen up here at shoulder height. And we'll just have a roll down screen. We'll put a roll down clear screen there, which is fine. And we'll keep a door that we can put on if the weather becomes really, really bad, which, you know, we've been living on this boat over nearly a year and a half now, and we've never had weather so bad we had to close the door. So it's a roll down top would work perfectly. And then we just store a door under a bed somewhere for when we need to lock the boat up. But yeah, you can see I've got all the tools out here. I'm just trying to keep some stuff up inside the boat so that you don't need to walk up and down so much. And then yeah, this has been a big job. I did this pretty much the first day we came out of the water, so I really wanted to see how the structure was here. And it's all good. It's fine. The boat's definitely grounded in the past. And I think that was when John Barry III owned it. I believe he drove the boat up on a reef in Tahiti. But who knows? You never know, because people don't like to tell you when they do that sort of stuff. So that's why we're investigating, and that's why we're going through everything as well as we can. But yeah, there was a little crack in the glass here, nothing major. You know, the timbers are all fine, everything's fine. So we will glass this back up and put in underfloor frames and make this area really strong. Super beefy. But yeah, I'll put in a heap of biax, probably a couple of layers of 600, stagger them, little layer down below and then a couple of bigger layers on top. We'll make it really beefy, and then put in 4 underfloor frames, just like mini bulkheads, and then we'll just have the one through hole instead of 3 of them. And then I'll put the floor back in here. When we put the floor back in, we'll put the floor probably about 1 inch lower, just a little bit lower of where the bed is. I'll glass this. I'll glass this a little bit here, and then we'll put the floor in a touch lower. Because what that will do is it'll allow me to stand up in here, which will be awesome. Yeah, it's a great cabin, this one. Then yeah, we'll put a bit of G10 there, we'll fix all that up. That's pretty easy, a little rope eye. This is where the board line comes across the board and then through the block that's here. And that's what pulls the board up and down. But yeah, that's it. These are the beams. These are the box section beams. It's a bit hard to show you, but yeah, this whole thing is the box section beam. This is the port forward beam. And they're carbon. Yeah, they're all carbon. They're all really good, super solid. There's no movement here at all with any of the boat. So that's sort of the first week on the hard, really. Cracking out this, sanding the decks, filling up holes, getting rid of all the penetrations. Been airing out the floats a bit, like to just give them plenty of air. We were also inside there yesterday pulling out some pipes. So we've gotten rid of a lot of weight off the boat already. And just with these penetrations, people laugh when I say, you know, oh, we're losing weight. But when you pull out all of these little things, I've got a box down there and it probably weighs about 50 kilos and it's just full of stainless steel, bolts, nuts, washers, pad eyes. And yeah, it adds up. I'll say this to everyone, if you have a boat and you don't want any problems, keep it simple. That's why when we put this track back, we will not be putting a track in. We will be putting a single point friction ring. I'll probably be back about here somewhere. So our sheeting angle will be a touch wider, probably one or 2 degrees wider. But yeah, the staysail will still sheet to the same point, but the Genoa will sheet back there a bit wider. Yeah, rip the prodder off. We've got the chain on the ground down there. And the mast. Once a week we'll give the shed a really good clean, blow off all the dust and wash it out, sweep it out. But every week I'll just do one of these walkthroughs and just talk about what we've been doing. But yeah, this week was really starting on the cabin top, started sanding the decks, and then started filling these holes, working on the rudder, the centerboard. And then the same this week will be exactly the same, working on the centerboard and the rudder and just really cracking everything out. You can see we're getting pretty organised here. I'll take the hatches off as well, all the lids to the hatches. My father's been working on the engine and he's been cleaning up the exhaust and everything, which is great. And we're going to take him up the hatches as well. Here's the floor that I cut out from up forward. And you can see this was the problem. The underfloor bulkheads were rotten. And that's purely just, you know, a boat that's been left. You know, if you're living on board your boat and you're not checking your bilges to make sure they're dry, you need to do that. You need to open up your bilges all the time. You need to open all your lockers. You need to be at one with your boat. You need to understand what's going on with it. And then when you can see water in a bilge, you go, okay, well, I've got a fresh water pipe that's leaking, or I've got a seacock that's leaking. You fix it, you dry it, you air it out, and then you won't end up with rotten underfloor bulkheads like that one that lead to a less strong structure. Steering cables here as well. Took all them out. They've got a lot of broken strands on them. So I'm going to look at, I'd really like to do them with Dyneema, so we'll see how we go. And it should be pretty easy because there's the eyelet there. So anyway, there's a lot of weight, you know, there's probably, each of those is probably about 8 kilos. There's quite a lot of wire there. And there's another sort of 16 kilo. Woz has got a really nice mould here. So this is the mould that we'll be using for our, we'll use this to create a mould, sorry. And these will be for our cockpit drains. So just imagine that's on the side of the hull. It won't be that big either. It's just a full-size mould. We'll cut it down. And then they will go over the scuppers here, where the scuppers are. You can see how thick the hull is there. It's quite, I don't know if the video shows it, but that's really thick. Yeah, super thick hull. And that's the strip blank. Anyway, we'll grind. We'll put the scupper here. We'll work out the size that we need. We'll mark it. We'll grind it, cove it, and glass it on, and then fair it. And we'll do that for all the scuppers. Because in the past they had those hideous little black rubber flaps over them, and they looked horrible. So for us, and also the other thing is it's the penetrations. You know, again. Look at it, you know. They've just screwed straight into the boat, into the timber. Okay, so really what you should do is you should oversize drill that, and you should decore it, you should fill it with epoxy. And once you've filled it with epoxy, you then drill it and screw into the epoxy so you're not screwing into your structure. Yeah, it makes me a bit sad when I see all these penetrations that haven't been done properly. So anyway, we're going to make scuppers. Scupper, all of it will be scuppers. This is the gas locker. And here, the bottom of the gas locker drain. There's 2 drains. This is the floor well, the overboard discharge for the floor well. So we'll do a little scupper over that as well. It'll be a lot nicer, a lot neater. And that one up there doesn't do anything, so we'll probably just fill that hole. That top one will just get filled. The rig, we're not sure what we're going to do with the rig yet. I'd really like to replace it. I don't want to put it up. The thing weighs an absolute ton. There's the tender underneath there. Having a nice little rest for a few months. And then we've got the stainless frames from the old hardtop, and that there is the old prodder. This big white post is the old prodder. But yeah, I really don't want to put this rig back up. It weighs, the mast and the boom is over probably about 450 kilos, so I really don't want to put it up. I'd love to put up a nice new carbon rig, but obviously the fun tickets determine that. And yeah, we don't have that much money, so we will, we'll look for a second-hand rig, 18 metres. If anyone knows of an 18-metre rig for sale, second-hand, that would suit the boat, let us know. We're on the lookout. And yeah, anyway, we'll see how we go. I've got a few people searching for a rig for us at the moment, and we're getting a quote from a couple of people on a new rig, so we'll see how we go. Here you can see we've just washed the shed out today, so there's a lot of water around. There's our foam panels. Any cutting of the foam panels is done down in the front of the shed. And this is where we're living. There's Chloe. Yeah, so we're living right here, which is really good. This is how we've been able to afford it, really, is that we borrowed our family's caravan. And a wonderful friend also lent us a car. And yeah, we've been very fortunate. We're super fortunate. We feel blessed. We had a lot of visitors pop in last week and give us words of encouragement, which we really appreciate. And not just that, but everyone that writes on the videos and that gives us words of encouragement and that enjoys following along. We really want to thank you very much, because it does inspire us to walk around with the camera and take these videos and to share this. It's nice to know that there's people out there that enjoy watching people bring an old boat back to life, and that's really what we're trying to do. We feel like we've got a boat here that's got fantastic bones. She really is a great design. We saw that on the way back to Australia the last year, crossing the South Pacific and sailing the boat around has shown us that she is brilliant. She really is a great design. So the structure and the lines and her sailing ability is all there. We just need to simplify her and fix a few of these little problems, which aren't much at all, really. And I'll give you another update at the end of next week. But as always, thanks a lot for following along. We send everyone our best wishes, and look forward to sharing the journey of bringing the boat back to life with you all. Cheers for now. All the best.